When BTS released Arirang in March 2026, the global reaction was immediate and overwhelming. The album was quickly described as one of their most authentic works to date. Critics praised its emotional depth. Fans called it the most true to BTS. And across streaming platforms, the numbers reflected something undeniable. This wasn't just a comeback. This was a statement. But as the excitement settled, a different kind of conversation began to emerge, one that had little to do with charts, records, or even the group as a whole. Instead, it focused on one member, Jungkook. At first, it was subtle, almost unnoticeable unless you were paying close attention. Fans listening to Arirang began to pick up on a pattern, not in the lyrics, not in the visuals, but in the structure of the songs themselves. Jungkook's voice, not just present, but placed strategically. Across multiple tracks, his vocals seem to appear at the most important moments, the emotional peaks, the transitions, the final lines that linger in the listener's mind. This wasn't unusual for a main vocalist, but this felt different, more deliberate, more consistent. And for fans who have followed BTS for years, that difference was enough to raise questions. As discussions spread across fan communities, a theory began to take shape. They called it the hidden influence theory. The idea was simple, but powerful. Jungkook may have played a deeper role in shaping Arirang than what is officially known, not just as a singer, but as a creative influence behind the sound and emotion of the album. And the more fans listened, the stronger this theory became. One of the strongest pieces of evidence fans point to is something they describe as Jungkook's emotional signature. It's not technical, it's not listed in credits, it's something you feel. A certain way the music breathes, a balance between softness and intensity, a vocal delivery that feels controlled but deeply emotional at the same time. Listeners began noticing that this exact feeling appears repeatedly throughout Arirang, and for those familiar with Jungkook's solo work, the connection felt almost undeniable, because this wasn't new, it was familiar. Fans didn't stop at emotion, they went deeper into the sound itself. Comparisons began circulating online between Arirang and Jungkook's previous solo releases. The similarities stood out. Layered harmonies that build gradually, smooth vocal transitions that feel almost seamless, a polished production style that still feels intimate and personal. These elements appeared across multiple tracks in Arirang, and while BTS has always evolved musically, fans believe this specific combination reflects Jungkook's artistic identity more than ever before. So the question became harder to ignore. Did Jungkook help shape the sound of this album? Another key argument comes from something most casual listeners might miss: vocal placement. In music production, where a voice appears in a song is just as important as how it sounds. And in Arirang, Jungkook's voice is often positioned at critical emotional moments, right before the chorus hits, at the peak of the chorus, or in the final lines that close the song. These are not random choices. They are strategic decisions made during the production process. So when the same voice consistently carries these moments, fans see it as more than coincidence. They see intention. Another key argument comes from something most casual listeners might miss: vocal placement. In music production, where a voice appears in a song is just as important as how it sounds. And in Arirang, Jungkook's voice is often positioned at critical emotional moments, right before the chorus hits, at the peak of the chorus, or in the final lines that close the song. These are not random choices. They are strategic decisions made during the production process. So when the same voice consistently carries these moments, fans see it as more than coincidence. They see intention. Adding to the mystery is the lack of official information. So far, HYBE has not released detailed explanations about each member's creative contributions to Arirang. No breakdowns, no confirmations, no denials, just silence. And that silence has become part of the story. Because without clear answers, fans continue to rely on what they can hear and what they can interpret. And their interpretations continue to point toward Jungkook. Of course, there is another way to look at this: Jungkook's evolution as an artist. Over the past few years, his solo career showcased his ability to explore different sounds, experiment with genres, and connect with a global audience. That kind of growth doesn't disappear. It carries over. It influences decisions. It shapes how an artist approaches music. So when fans hear elements of Arirang that feel aligned with Jungkook's style, it may not be a mystery at all. It may simply be the result of growth. What makes this moment particularly interesting is how subtle everything feels. There was no announcement, no headline declaring a change in roles, no official statement redefining Jungkook's position within BTS. And yet, something feels different. Not dramatically, but noticeably, as if his role has expanded quietly, naturally, over time. For years, Jungkook has been known as BTS's main vocalist, but Arirang has started a new conversation, one that goes beyond vocals. Fans are beginning to see him not just as someone who performs the music, but as someone who may be influencing it, shaping it, guiding its emotional direction, and that perception alone is significant. This discussion isn't just about one album, it's about what comes next. If Jungkook's influence is indeed growing, it could impact the future direction of BTS as a group, their sound, their style, their global identity. Because in a group where every member brings something unique, even a subtle shift in influence can lead to noticeable changes. At this point, there is still no clear answers, no confirmations, no official statements from HYBE, only patterns, observations, and theories. But sometimes, in music, what listeners feel matters just as much as what is officially stated. And right now, what many listeners feel is this: Jungkook's presence in Arirang goes deeper than expected. So where does that leave us? With one question that continues to grow louder: was Jungkook simply performing on Arirang, or was he quietly helping shape it? For now, the answer remains hidden, but the more fans listen, analyze, and discuss, the harder it becomes to ignore the possibility that this album marks something new, not just for BTS, but for Jungkook himself. Because if these theories turn out to be even partially true, then Arirang may be remembered for more than its success, more than its sound, more than its comeback story. It may be remembered as the moment fans first realized something had changed, something subtle, something powerful, something hidden in plain sight: Jungkook's influence. And maybe that's exactly what makes this moment so powerful. Because in an industry where everything is usually explained, credited, and announced, this feels different, quiet, unconfirmed, almost hidden. What if Jungkook's influence on Arirang was never meant to be obvious? What if it wasn't about taking the spotlight, but shaping the atmosphere behind it, guiding the emotion, controlling the impact without ever needing to say it out loud? Fans may not have official answers. There are no detailed breakdowns, no confirmed roles, no clear statements from HYBE. But sometimes, the strongest evidence isn't written in credits, it's felt. In the way a chorus hits, in the way a voice carries emotion, in the way a song stays with you long after it ends. And that's where Jungkook's presence becomes impossible to ignore, not just as a performer, but as something more, something evolving, something shifting. Because if Arirang truly represents the most true to BTS version of themselves, then understanding who shaped that truth matters. And right now, more and more fans are beginning to believe that Jungkook is part of that answer. But this story isn't finished, not even close. Because as BTS moves forward into this new era, every performance, every interview, every future release will add new clues, new patterns, new possibilities. And maybe one day, the full story behind Arirang will finally be revealed. Maybe the roles will be clarified. Maybe the mystery will be solved. Or maybe it won't. Maybe this will remain one of those rare moments in music where the truth exists not in what is said, but in what is felt. And if that's the case, then one thing is certain. The conversation about Jungkook's hidden influence is not ending anytime soon. In fact, it may have only just begun.